Anyway, it seems like the Bears is here. Wait a minute, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another, day. So in front of me, we have a steer must now it either comes from here or it comes from the strange thing is I slept like 30 minutes early and don't do anything. Yeah, seriously, nothing's all that. I guess today's plans are pretty simple, right? Do this. Alpha Theurgine Phillips and food and maybe something. And then the head cannon. We're so overclocked that I went a few more seconds longer. Definitely a story better today. Oh yeah, today's editing should be fairly easy. I think we're awake now as well. There's nothing to talk about though. I wonder how eating like an extra, 1 kg of rice does. So again, I'll see how it goes. Apparently, I should be splitting it into threes, not twos. Because right now we're eating it in twos, but apparently we're supposed to be eating it in threes. The only problem with splitting the meal into threes is that it takes more like effort, right? Kinda. I don't know. Maybe I should try splitting it into threes. I'll see how it goes. I don't know. I've always been doing it one meal a day. I like eating it all in one go. We'll try. Sometimes two times. Yeah, like I prefer that. But that's only because I'm used to it, right? It's what is it called? Intermittent fasting or something. But maybe I should split it. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's kind of like how we prep. Fuck's sakes, what's this stupid ass? What is this stupid? Why can't this thing lean? What was I gonna say? Whoops. I was gonna say maybe we should split it. Maybe we should split the food because it's kind of like the same as splitting the the training, right? We split rest times, but then we just like do as many as we can. I'll see how it goes. So splitting into threes is definitely going to be annoying. I guess I'll try to split it. Apparently the split's going to be really long. Usually, like for the past 2 days, we've been splitting it in 2 hours, right? Meal one, 2 hours later, meal two. That's it. But apparently we're supposed to be splitting it into like six, which is meal one, snack, meal two, snack, meal three. But I like it's like for the whole day though. I mean, I could try. It would be really nice though. But if that's what Sensei says, then gotta just do it right. Also, I'm not feeling my biceps at all. I'm feeling my back more than anything. This is not even doing any biceps. I swear it's not. Yeah, we're doing the reverse. I can feel it. Yeah, but definitely start video today. And we're gonna do withering. waves today as well. And I think that's about it. Well, that's gonna be about it for now. So basically, just weather and waves is the only thing on the schedule. Besides that, there's just nothing else. Alright, so that's gonna be it for now. Appreciate it. Actually, no, actually, wait. Maybe, yeah, like I said, I think splitting up might change the metabolism, metabolism or something. I'm not exactly sure, but see how it goes. Should probably check the weight of like 12 seconds ago. Okay, alright, there you go. 67.5. So 200 grams already increased. That's great. Alright, well, that's about it for now. I'll see you guys soon. Alright, gonna do a story video and that should be about it. Today's arm day was pretty mid. I didn't really feel anything much. And was basically like falling asleep on the stairs, which shouldn't be happening. We should be fully awake, but yeah, it means I just gotta wake up earlier. No, sleep more. Today's schedule is actually pretty. So just a story video and weathering waves. That's basically it. There's nothing else. I'll try to find something.
Hey guys. Alright. Story time. Story 2. We're going to continue the 3 true summer camp stories. Now, the first story we looked at last time, which I don't know how many days it's been, was about some kind of like tall person getting into the place, etc., etc. But, alright, lock in. Let's go. Let's go.
When I was in high school, my parents made me attend some stupid religious summer camp. I hated the outdoors, and I wasn't a summer camp person. I liked to spend most of my time playing video games or hanging out with my friends in the neighborhood. I guess that's why my parents made me go. It was an effort to get me outside and hopefully make some new friends. Instead, I left summer camp with an experience I'll never forget. Something that I still can't explain. I spent the first few days getting acquainted with my bunkmates and just getting a lay of the land. It honestly was fun. I was starting to enjoy myself. As a 15-year-old boy, I also loved the fact that this camp was co-ed. I remember going out of my way to try to impress the girls. One girl especially, Jenny Messina, I started crushing on hard. I started basing my camp activities for the day based on whatever Jenny was doing.
I mean, bro's 15 years old, so, you know, kids will be kids, right? He is 15 years old, so let's keep that in mind, you know. 15-year-old kids do a bit of the dumb stuff, but whatever.
She was the superstitious type. Her favorite part of camp was sitting around the fire at night and listening to ghost stories. Something I didn't think would be allowed at a religious summer camp.
Bro's talking too much. He is 15 years old, but... Alright, bro.
One night, while we were sitting around the campfire, one of our camp counselors told us a ghost story. There's a small cabin just a short walk from all the other cabins that's abandoned. According to the story, some horrific accident happened there decades ago, and ever since, the cabin's been abandoned. He didn't go into details about what happened there, but implied that it was gruesome, and he used the word evil. He then went on to tell us the classic ghost story tropes that one tells when they tell a story about some haunted building. People have claimed to see figures walking around through the windows at night, or hear strange noises. And according to the counselor, one camper was never seen again. Right after that, the counselor screamed in an attempt to scare the campers, and it worked for about 50% of the people listening to his story. Everyone left except—
Oh, I remember when that happened. Yo, they do that sometimes, for real. When I went camping at, like, primary school, I think, was it primary? Yeah, they would do that. Like, all of a sudden, they start telling a horror story, and then they just shout for no reason, jump scare, like, the entire class. And it's like, what? Why'd you do that? I mean, obviously, but... Yeah, I remember that. They do that sometimes.
Jenny. She asked if there really was a camper that was never seen again. The counselor told us it was just an urban legend. Just a story they tell the older kids at camp to scare them. He doesn't believe it's haunted. We all sat around for a while after the story talking about it. We all assumed they left the cabin there empty on purpose to give the story some weight, make it seem like it's actually a true story in some way. Having the empty cabin there for seemingly no reason gives the story a strange sense of validation. At least that's what some people, like Jenny, thought. The counselor eventually gathers us all up and tells us it's time to head to our rooms for the night. What he didn't know was that a small group of us had a plan to sneak out that night to play Truth or Dare. Jenny was one of the people sneaking out as well. We waited a few hours to make sure all the counselors had gone in for the night, and we snuck out. We met down by the water, which was about a 10-minute walk from the cabins. We wanted to make sure we were a safe distance from the cabins so nobody would hear us. There were 8 of us who snuck down there.
8.
5 boys got
8. I mean, if they snuck out, they snuck out, right? It is what it is.
down there first, and the 3 girls showed up a few minutes after us. We sat around for a little while, and then started playing Truth or Dare. I was using this as an excuse to try and impress Jenny in some way. At first, everyone was scared to say Dare and was sticking to Truth. When it finally was my turn, I said Dare. They dared me to go inside the abandoned cabin, of course, and stay there for 10 minutes. I could see Jenny look terrified, but I didn't care about this haunted cabin. I didn't
Yeah, he gonna go in there and be like, "Hey, Jenny, watch this." And he's never gonna be seen again.
believe the ghost story. We all quietly snuck up to the cabin. There was this weird uneasiness in the air. I think it was because everyone was thinking about the story from earlier, so it felt like there was this shred of truth. I only felt slightly uneasy because I was about to break into a cabin when I was supposed to be in bed. Breaking 2 rules was a lot scarier to me than a ghost story. I walked up to the door and looked behind me. Everyone I was with was standing behind some trees watching me. I was surprised that the door was open. I didn't have to force it or try breaking into a window. I just walked right in like I owned the place. I closed the door behind me and walked around.
There's only a few options. Either one of the counselors are actually just chilling in there about to jump scare whoever sneaks in, right? Or some homeless man or something's in there, and then he takes him, and every single person that's there is gonna leave him. Like, he's gonna be like, "Who's timing it anyways? How can you even time it for 10 minutes? Do they have phones? You know?" So he's cooked, I think. Depends.
The empty cabin. It was dark. There was a little light coming inside the windows from the moon, but it was still mostly dark. It smelled old and musty in there, like nobody had been in there for years. It also felt colder than it should have. I continued walking around, trying to beat out the clock, and then I heard the sound of wood creaking behind me. It sounded like somebody walking. I turned around, and nobody was there. I thought to myself that maybe the wood had a delayed creak from my walking. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's what my teenage brain thought. I looked at my watch, and I couldn't believe only 2 minutes had passed. I felt like I had been in there for 20 minutes. There was a structural beam in the middle of the cabin that I decided to lean on while I waited. When I was standing there, I started hearing that creaking sound again. I looked all around the cabin, but it was still just me in there. Then, I heard the sound get louder and faster, almost like someone was running on the creaky wooden floor, but nothing was there, and then just stopped. I looked at my watch, and only another minute has passed. I walked over to the window and looked outside to try and see my friends, but I couldn't see them. I cupped my hands on the window and looked exactly where they said they were, and they didn't appear to be there. I started knocking on the window, trying to see if I could get their attention, but nobody appeared from the other side of the tree.
They abandoned him.
I didn't want to admit this to myself, but I was scared. The story and how all my friends reacted to it must have gotten to me on some level, because I felt off. I decided I was going to leave. I was sure that my friends would love to rip into me anyway. I walked over to the door to leave, and when I tried opening it, it wouldn't open.
GG.
I tried to force the door open, and it still wouldn't budge. I looked down at the doorknob. I thought maybe I accidentally locked it when I walked inside, but there was no lock on the door. I thought it had to be sticking then. I started to slam into the door and nothing happened. While I was doing this, the sounds coming from inside the cabin were getting louder. The footsteps were loud and happening all around me. It felt unnatural. I swear I felt something sinister at that moment. It felt like someone was standing right behind me. I tried to tell myself that it was just my imagination, but I couldn't even turn around. I started banging on the door, yelling for help. I heard someone on the other side of the door trying to get it open, but they couldn't get it open either.
How?
It was Jenny. I thought everyone was gone because I didn't see them, but thankfully Jenny was there.
How?
I heard her say that the door was locked and that
How?
they were trying to get it open. I still didn't turn around. I know this sounds insane, but I felt breath on my shoulder while I was facing the door. I couldn't hear anyone breathing, and I never saw anyone with my own eyes, but I could tell somehow that someone was behind me.
Cat.
I let go of the doorknob.
You know, ghosts aren't real unless you give them power, just like depression. Depression's not real unless you give it power.
Fell to the ground, leaning my head against the door. I was basically expecting defeat. Then the door opened and I fell out. Standing there were two camp counselors. I never felt so much relief in my life. I ran out and fell to the ground in front of the cabin. I started thanking them for getting me out, and they didn't look pleased. They basically brought me to the main cabin, and I had to sleep in what is essentially solitary confinement, summer camp edition.
GG.
The next morning, I had a meeting with the woman who runs the camp. I told her about my experience, and she just kept rolling her eyes, basically. She told me that counselors aren't supposed to tell that story because it gives the campers nightmares. She assured me that the story isn't true, and it's a stupid story designed to scare us. She didn't care much about what I had to say. She ended up calling my parents, and I got kicked out of summer camp for breaking curfew, sneaking out, and breaking into a restricted camp building.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I was so scared from the previous night, I didn't care I was getting kicked out. I was happy to be going home and spending the rest of my summer vacation grounded. Back then, I remember looking into the story more. The internet was not as expansive as it is right now. I couldn't find any details on whether the story was true or not. The camp has since closed, and every time over the years I try to look the story up, I never can find anything. It's easy to say that this was all my mind, but that's not the case.
Most likely your mind.
I don't get scared easily, and this was honestly the only
It probably is your mind. Most likely your mind, because how can a door get locked like that? Like, it doesn't make sense. You know? If there was a person there, the counselors would have found him and got the police. Right? So, yeah, most likely just imagination. I highly doubt that the door would be locked like that. And plus, yeah. Again, it's mainly because of the power you give it. Ghosts aren't real unless you give it power. If you genuinely believe they're not real, they're not gonna hurt you.
time in my life I felt genuine fear. It's the only thing that's ever happened to me that I truly can't explain. I've heard wooden floors creak, even extremely old floors, and none of them have ever creaked so methodically before. I've always intended to drive up there sometime and see if the cabin still stands. If I do, maybe I'll go inside again and give that 10 minutes another chance. Who knows? Maybe this time I'll last the entire 10 minutes.
Nah. If there was someone in there, the counselors would have seen him. So, no. It's all in the mind. Story 3 by J Money.
My family has owned and operated a summer camp for young teens for over 40 years.
Damn. No wonder money.
My parents still technically own and run the camp, but because they're getting older, they aren't really hands-on anymore, and they haven't been for a few years now. I take care of most of the activities and daily operations. Our camp runs 3 separate 12-day sessions during the summer. The 12th day is on a Friday, and we get a 2-day break before the next session starts on a Monday. Well, all the other employees get a 2-day break. I stay behind and make sure the camp is ready for the next batch of kids.
Yep, that's part of being the owner.
One summer a few years ago, we had to cancel the last session because of something that happened. It started on the last day of the second session. One of the girls came up to me after breakfast and told me that she was happy to be going home. That always made me sad to hear because it was usually an indication that they didn't enjoy their time at camp.
Real.
When I asked her what was wrong, she told me that she didn't sleep well the last 2 nights, so she was happy to be going home and sleeping in her own room. I
That's also
continued
real.
to ask why she didn't sleep well. She told me it was because she was being bothered by an owl man at night. I was almost at a loss for words.
A what now?
I didn't know how I should react to this. I couldn't tell if she was joking, dreaming, or hallucinating. She said she saw the owl man 2 nights ago. She heard a tapping sound on the window. She woke up and saw the owl man outside. He looked like he was waving at her. She convinced herself she was dreaming and tried to go back to sleep. The next night, which was her final night sleeping at camp, she woke up to the owl man tapping on the window again. That's when she told me that she knew this wasn't a dream. He was clearly there. She went over to the window, and the owl man asked if she could let him in because it was cold outside. She told him she wasn't allowed and to leave her alone. He made a sad sound and ran into the forest. While she was telling me all this, she didn't look scared or even that concerned. She just looked tired. I made sure she was okay, and she was, and then we went our separate ways. I waved it off as a vivid dream or just a crazy imagination. After all, an owl man is a ridiculous-sounding creature. All the kids left, and I started getting the camp ready for the next session that was going to start that Monday. Just little tasks to get everything in order. Throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening, I kept hearing strange noises. I ignored it for the most part because I knew I was the only person on the grounds at this time. That night, I was staying on the grounds doing some paperwork and planning some of the activities for the next session. While I was sitting at my desk, I continued to hear these noises outside. I kept looking out the windows, but I never saw anything. Our camp is secluded in the woods, so it's not impossible for there to be an animal outside lurking around. A few hours into the night, I was finally getting ready to sit down and take a load off. Just as I put my feet up, a blast of light came through the blinds from outside. It was the motion sensor floodlight on the side of the house. I got up and looked outside. Still, I didn't see anybody or any animal out there. I won't lie, that freaked me out. This wasn't a sensitive floodlight. It doesn't just turn on when a raccoon or something small comes by. Something big enough to activate the sensor had to turn it on. And that's what freaked me out. I didn't even make it back to my chair when I thought I heard a scratching sound coming from the front door. I shouted and asked if anybody was out there, and nobody responded. I just kept hearing that scratching sound.
I feel like summer camps only work in a really, really, really high trust society. It's kinda ish. Really just depends. Yeah. Really depends. Yeah, it depends on the context of the summer camp, because some summer camps, oh yeah, I don't know. It just depends on it really depends on like the society and like stuff like that, right? You know? I feel like it depends on the society. Like, for example, a summer camp in New Zealand, you know, you're not gonna really get any weirdos entering the camp because everyone knows each other. There's no escape from the police, right? You know what I mean? But then, like, I don't know, if you're like in America or something, and like, you know, there's drugs people or something, like, you know what I mean? It really just depends on the context of like the society and stuff. But yeah, is what it is, I guess.
That gave me a little more reason to believe an animal was out there, but it still didn't make a lot of sense. The animals around the camp never tried to get into one of the cabins this aggressively. I stormed over to the door and smashed my fist into it to try and scare the animal away. And it worked. The scratching sound stopped. I started listening through the wooden door, trying to hear anything I could so I could determine what animal was outside. A few seconds later, I heard the undeniable sound of footsteps descending the wooden stairs that led to the front door. I was in shock and fear all at once. I finally worked up the courage a few seconds later to stand up and look out the window that's next to the front door. I expected to see a person standing in the driveway staring at me, but once again, it was just the darkness and nothing else. I flipped the light switch on that turns the outdoor light in the front of the house on. Once again, I expected to see someone lurking, but again, nothing. I turned the light off and went back to my chair. I sat in silence for a while, trying to figure out what was happening. During that time, I didn't hear or see anything that made me think twice. Even though I know I heard the sound of footsteps, I convinced myself that I had misheard whatever was out there, and it had to be an animal. It was the only logical thing that made sense. A few hours passed, and I was getting tired. I eventually fell asleep in the chair. I'm not sure how long I was asleep when I heard a loud crash come from the back of the house. I jumped out of the chair because the noise was alarming. I could see the floodlight was shining in through the windows again. Instead of scratching, I heard a light tapping sound, this time coming from the back of the house. The tapping was coming from the other side of the glass sliding door that led to the back deck. I had curtains in front of the door, so I couldn't see outside. As I got closer to the door, the tapping was getting louder. I finally reached the curtains. I pulled them back, and standing just behind the sliding door was a man wearing a bright white owl mask. He was tapping on the glass door. It almost looked like he was waving back at me the way he was tapping. I started shouting in a panic, but the man didn't react. He just kept tapping. I tried to shout at the owl man to go away, but I think just a mumbled mess slipped out of my mouth instead. After I shouted at him, he stopped tapping. We just stood there staring at each other. The owl man...
Boom! Get the shotgun out. Kill him. No, I'm joking. But I mean, like, as the owner of like a campsite, you would have some kind of weapon to defend yourself, right? Right.
Grabbed the sliding door and tried to open it, but thankfully I had it locked. He asked if I could please open the door so he could show me what was in his bag. I wanted to act, but I couldn't move. The sheer panic I felt in this moment was actually crippling. I finally was able to fumble around in my pocket and grab my phone. As I was dialing 911, the owl man told me that it wasn't a good idea to call the police, and that it was going to make him very angry. Obviously, that didn't stop me.
Yeah, obviously.
While I was on the phone with the police, the owl man ran back into the forest. I tried to see exactly where he ran off to, but once he hit the darkness, he was gone. The police eventually showed up, and after a full investigation and search of the surrounding area, they never found him. They did find the owl mask deep in the woods, just hanging from a tree branch, and underneath that, a backpack with a pink t-shirt inside that had Vermont written on it with cursive handwriting. It's important to note that our camp is nowhere close to the state of Vermont. In fact, Vermont is on the other side of the country. But the worst part of all this was that wrapped inside the Vermont shirt was a knife. Not just a pocket knife or a kitchen knife, but a big butcher knife. Even with the mask and backpack, they were never able to find out who the man was, where he came from, or what he intended to do. He just showed up one day trying to get inside one of the cabins, and he didn't try very hard. When the camper told him to go away, he did. When he tried to get inside my cabin, he once again didn't try very hard. He could have easily broken a window, but instead, he just disappeared. When the police found the backpack, that was more than enough evidence to cancel the next session. We just didn't know if it was safe to have all those children here with this owl man still on the loose.
Real.
We never officially stated the reason to the public why we canceled the next session. My family was able to pull some strings and keep the real reason quiet from the public. It's why I'm writing this without giving my real name or the name of the camp, because we still run the camp to this day, and if parents knew a crazy man in a mask was wandering around in the woods, we wouldn't have a camp to run anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing of like summer camps, right? It's just, yeah. But I mean, yeah. Would it be better to have like a fence gate? Maybe, but then at the same time, if you think about it, right? Let's say you ran a summer camp, right? Yeah, a summer camp, but instead of it being fully open to the forest, you have like a, some kind of security fence gate thing, right? What's stopping one of your employees from going nuts and killing someone? What happens if one of the campers you bring in goes nuts and kills his roommate, his bunkmate? It's kind of that situation when it comes to summer camps. You're sleeping with strangers. Strangers can come in and out. And like, sure, you can say police and stuff, right? But you can't really do much when they kill someone and then they call the police, right? So, it's the same for summer camps, right? Like if a kid gets kidnapped or like someone gets killed, the police would come and it'll be cancelled, and then there'll become a long manhunt for someone, right? So, I mean, summer camps are like, sure, someone could theoretically come in whenever they want and kill someone, but it could realistically only happen once before it's like a huge manhunt. And again, depends on the area as well, right? Pretty sure the police would get you in a single manhunt. They'll get him pretty easily, right? It depends on the area and like where it is and stuff, right? You know? Yeah, I mean, like, again, even if you had like a compound, like a guarded summer camp, right? What's stopping one of the campers from going nuts? You know, what's stopping a camper from smuggling a knife into his bag and at nighttime just randomly stabbing one of the bunkmates? Who's gonna stop him? It's over. But it could only happen once. You know? What's stopping an employee from doing something evil as well? You know? It is what it is. Was it that, you know that story where it was like that story about the girls like following Slender Man and stuff?
Isolated.
It is what it is, right? Slender Man girl murderers.
The Slender Man stabbing. So in 2014, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier concocted this truly diabolical, horrific plan to lure their classmate Peyton into the woods for what she thought was going to be a harmless game of hide and seek. The game, however, ended in Morgan stabbing Peyton 19 times, all while Anissa just stood by watching and cheering her on, encouraging her to continue going. Now, what is so unsettling about this is that all three girls were just 12 years old. They were in the 6th grade when this disgusting attack happened. It was later learned that the motive behind this attack was for Morgan and Anissa to kill someone, sacrifice someone, also that they could earn the right to be this fictional horror character Slender Man's servants. They were worried and feared that he would harm them and their families if they didn't go through with it. The Slender Man stabbing. So in 2000,
Yeah, like something like that, right? Like what's stopping some of the kids when you bring them to summer camp? They're just killing another one. Did they even kill her? I think she survived, right? For those wondering, Morgan was sentenced to 40 years in mental hospital. Anissa was sentenced to 25 in mental hospital. Ah, yeah, because they're 12 years old. She escaped?
High intense.
Wait, she escaped? Slenderman stabber Morgan busted with mysterious woman after escaping group home. That's crazy.
3-year-old Wisconsin woman
23 years old. What? They're older than me?
known as the Slender Man stabber has been captured after slicing off her court-mandated ankle monitor, escaping her group home, and leading police on a nationwide manhunt. Morgan Geyser was notoriously known for viciously ambushing and hacking a classmate 19 times in 2014 when she was 12 years old, in an effort to please a made-up internet boogeyman called the Slender Man. Then on November 22nd of this year, she vanished from her group home in Madison, Wisconsin. According to NBC News, the Madison Police Department said Geyser was last spotted at the home at around 8:15 p.m. on November 22nd. About an hour later, the state's Department of Corrections was notified that Geyser's location tracker on her ankle monitor had malfunctioned. But it wasn't until the next morning at nearly 8 a.m. that the group home called 911 to report Geyser missing, leading police on a desperate manhunt to find the twisted attacker.
Is she gonna like...
Geyser's attorney, Tony Cotton, even put out a video on Instagram issuing a desperate plea for Geyser to turn herself in to the authorities immediately.
Turn yourself in. Do not continue to remain on the run like this. It is not in your best interest to handle this matter that way.
Police were initially clueless on Geyser's whereabouts, but a loitering report in Posen, Illinois on November 23rd led to a surprising breakthrough in the search. After a nearly 24-hour manhunt, Geyser was spotted sleeping on a sidewalk behind a truck stop more than 150 miles from the group home. and was then arrested by police. According to CBS News, Geyser initially refused to give her real name to the cops, but relented, telling officers to, quote, just Google her to find out who she was because she had, quote, done something really bad. But in a surprising twist, police didn't find Geyser alone. A 42-year-old woman was also busted sleeping on the sidewalk with the convicted stabber. The unidentified woman claimed to CBS News that the pair were best friends and said she didn't want Geyser to be alone when she cut off her ankle tag and escaped the group home. The mystery pal claimed the two had taken a bus to Chicago before walking 20 miles south to Posen, where they were forced to stop when Geyser injured her foot. The middle-aged woman was arrested and released, charged with obstructing identity. CBS reported that Geyser is scheduled to be in court on November 24th. In 2014, Geyser, along with her friend Anissa Weier, made headlines when the friends lured fellow 6th grader Peyton Leutner, a passing bicyclist. Geyser, as a 15-year-old, pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree murder in a deal that would see her put in a mental institution instead of serving jail time. She spent nearly 7 years in the Winnebago Mental Health Institute before a judge ordered her release in January, despite several, quote, red flags. In March, Waukesha County Deputy District Attorney Abby Nicoli said the state had real concerns after state health officials became aware that Geyser had...
So she escaped, she got taken back again. You ain't gonna get really far away from 2025, you know what I mean? You ain't going really far. Is that the person he Okay, alright. Cool. Is there anything else to look at? Well, let's quickly have like a minute. Oh, true gaming horror stories. Yo! We gotta look at this next time.
This video top.
Next time we'll look into it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it, right? Till next time. Bye-bye.